Hi, hello, this is Mike Childs with Myrtle Beach Homes and Lifestyles and Childs Real Estate, and I'd like to welcome you to this week's episode of Real Estate Reality. Real Estate Reality is our weekly video segment regarding important issues related to real estate in the Myrtle Beach area and along the Grand Strand. This week's episode is about floods, flood insurance, and flood zones. But before we get started, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, to like this video. And if you have questions or comments, I encourage you to use the comment section below. We'd really love to hear from you. We're happy to answer your questions and provide you with any additional information you might need. In addition to the Real Estate Reality segment, we publish a lot of local interest videos on our YouTube channel. So be sure and check those out. You'll find lots of interesting things to see and do here in the Myrtle Beach area on our channel as well. Okay, floods, flood zones, and flood insurance. Let's get into it. If you've lived along the Grand Strand for any length of time, you know that flooding is a fact of life and that it's often overlooked in the official relocation guides. Flooding is a real threat that you need to be keenly aware of if you're planning to buy or sell a home anywhere along the Grand Strand. In the past 4 years, we've experienced two 100-year flood events here along the Grand Strand. And we're talking about flooding of biblical proportions for those that were affected by these floods. Hurricane Matthew in 2016 and Hurricane Florence in 2018 both produced an exceptionally large amount of rainfall over a very short period. Florence was by far the worst of the two, but both storms produced significant flooding and flood damage throughout the area. Many homes that were spared by Matthew were flooded by Hurricane Florence, and many homes were flooded twice in the 2-year period between the two storms. In addition to these major tropical systems, king tides can also produce localized flooding in areas like Garden City and Cherry Grove, and even large thunderstorm systems can produce localized flooding along the rivers and the waterway. So let's talk about flood zones. How do you find out if your property or a property that you're interested in is in a flood zone? Before purchasing a home in Myrtle Beach or nearby, you should research your flood zone. Homes in high-risk flood zones may have already been flooded and are subject to repeat flooding if not properly elevated. Currently, there are a lot of flood homes on the market that may look like good deals. These are not your typical fix and flips. They generally require a bare bones rebuild from the outside in. There's a lot more to repairing a flooded home than just putting in some paint and some new carpet. Some of these homes have been repaired by homeowners, investors, and even lenders who's foreclosed on them. If a home has ever been flooded, you need to know there could be some serious hidden issues with any home that's ever had floodwaters inside. I'm going to switch over to my computer now, and I'm going to show you exactly how you can determine whether a particular property is in a flood zone and possibly whether that property has been flooded before. Okay, so how do you determine if your home is in a flood zone or if the home you're interested in purchasing is in a flood zone? Well, the easiest way is to use the county's website. I've already pulled up the map. This is Horry County's website. I will put the link to the website in the comment section below, so you'll have access to that. But this is a FEMA flood map for Horry County. Everything that you see in the lavender or the purple color here, these are high-risk flood zones. And you can see there's quite a bit of area in Horry County that is in a high-risk flood zone. Especially along the rivers. You have the PD rivers here, the Waccamaw River coming through here. We have the waterway right along in here, and you see some flood zones also right along the immediate coast and around Surfside Beach and Garden City, up around Little River and Cherry Grove, and get along the waterway in Little River, as well as in the Sockasee Waterway, Waccamaw River area. There's a lot of flood zones. So this map allows you to do a lot of things that will help you determine whether the home you're looking at or the home you own is in or near a flood zone. Over on the left, you have some icons. You kind of double click on the active icon and it will get rid of that legend, so you'll have a bigger view of everything. We'll bring that back up. You can click on the little mountain icon and that will give you satellite imagery, and you can just slide that slider over to go back to the road map. You can pan around to different areas, but to get some details, you're going to have to zoom in. And so you can see some street level and parcel level details on the map. Just keep zooming in by clicking on the plus button. And so now you zoom in enough, you can see the parcel lines for these various neighborhoods. You can see the building footprints. And wherever you see the purple, that's the high-risk flood zones. These maps are very accurate, I live near this particular area, and I walk down to the waterway every morning. And during Hurricane Florence, the water was exactly where this map says the water would be. So they're very, very, very accurate. Now, a couple of things that you can do. We'll go back over to our search. You can search for a particular tax map number, PIN number. If you know these information, your realtor can give that to you. You can look up an individual owner's name. If you own a property, you can type in your name, or you can just type in an address. And I want to get one that I know has some issues. Type in an address and click the little search icon. It'll pull up the addresses. If there's more than one address that's similar, you might find a couple of different ones in here. Just click on the one you're interested in, and it'll put a flag and a pin over the property that you selected. And so you can see that this home is right in the middle of a high-risk flood area. This home was in fact flooded during Hurricane Florence. Another useful thing you can do is use the tools to do some measuring. So say you're interested in purchasing a home in this neighborhood, and you want to see how far away that home is from the flood zone. You can choose your distance measurement here, and you just click on, say you want to buy this home way over here. So we'll click on that home, we'll get a little marker, and then we'll draw a line back over to the edge of the flood zone. And you can see that's 0.7 miles. You can change that to feet if you want to. So you can get an idea how far away from a flood zone you are. And so it's important to know, number one, is a property you own or property you're interested in purchasing in a flood zone? And number two, how far away from a flood zone or a flood-prone area is that property? And you can determine that on the county's website. Another way to get some flood zone information is to go to FEMA's website. Again, I'll have that link in the comments section below. You type in an address. In this case, you'll have to put in the city as well, since this is a national map and not just restricted to the county. So what this map will pull up a basic map, and it's just telling you what map that address is on. And to find that map, you scroll back up, click on this little map image icon, and it'll pull up the actual map that FEMA uses. And then you have to kind of zoom in on the area that you're interested in. And again, you can see where the flood zones are. Everything that's in this blue shaded area is in a flood zone. These will generally be flood zone AE or flood zone A in some cases. You want to stay away from anything that is a flood zone A. If it has an A in front of it, it's generally a high-risk flood zone. Flood zone X and other zones may be a little safer. You can determine that by going to floodmaps.com and pulling up the zone classifications, and you can read the description here. Generally, zone A is anything that's subject to a 100-year flood or area that has a 1% annual chance of flooding. Things that are in zone C and X and B are generally safer, less prone to flooding. Okay, so that's how we determine whether we're in a flood zone, what that flood zone is, or how far away from a flood zone we are. If you have any questions about that, just put them in the comments section below. I'll be happy to answer them for you and provide you with some additional information. Okay, so now you know how to look up a particular property, how to determine whether it is in a flood zone, and if it's subject to potential flooding. So now let's talk about flood insurance. The most important thing to know about flood insurance is that if you are in a high-risk flood zone, that insurance will be very expensive. Depending on the zone and the elevation requirements for that zone, you could be spending hundreds or even thousands of dollars extra each year in addition to your mortgage payments to insure that home against flooding. If you're getting a mortgage to purchase a home in the Myrtle Beach area, your lender will require you to get flood insurance if that home is in a high-risk zone. Or depending on the conditions and requirements, they may just deny your loan outright. Of course, if you pay cash for a home, then flood insurance would be optional. But you need to be aware, at some point in the future you may want to sell that home, and if it's in a flood zone, that is going to be an issue to potential buyers. So even if you opt not to get flood insurance, you still need to know what the risks are in the zone that your home is located in. Now I want to talk a little bit about elevation requirements, what they are and what they mean to you. All along the Grand Strand, you'll see a lot of raised beach cottages and other homes that are elevated on piers. You'll see a lot of these homes in Surfside Beach, Garden City Beach, Cherry Grove, anywhere along the immediate beachfront, and also along the waterways and the rivers. Now, just because a home is elevated does not mean it is risk-free. FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Administration, has established minimum elevation guidelines for every flood zone. The elevation requirement is the minimum height above sea level of the lowest structural component of the first floor living area. That's usually your floor joists. Your lender or your insurance company may require an elevation certificate before underwriting your loan or before issuing an insurance policy. If an elevation certificate is required and one is not available for the home you're interested in, a FEMA certified surveyor will have to determine the elevation and provide you with that certificate. This is an additional cost. Another issue that comes up occasionally, especially with some of the older homes that are located in these flood zones, are enclosed lower levels. Now, an enclosed lower level is where someone who has a raised beach house or beach cottage has enclosed the lower level, which is normally used for parking or storage, and converted that into living space. This practice is essentially outlawed. It is no longer allowed, but you will find some older homes where the owner has enclosed the lower level. The law provides that the lower level of a raised home must be used for parking and storage only. It cannot be enclosed in such a manner that impedes the flow of stormwaters. You are allowed to enclose the area with lattice or other open type framings that will allow water to go in and out. But the space below must be used for parking with a minimal space enclosed for storage. I bring this up because if you find a home that has an enclosed lower section, you may not be able to get flood insurance for it, or the local municipality may require you to remove that lower enclosure. There is a pending lawsuit right now in Surfside Beach where the city is demanding that a new homeowner remove the lower enclosure from a home he recently purchased. Even though the previous homeowner enclosed that area and converted it to living space, the city is insisting that the new homeowner be responsible for adhering to the new zoning requirements. So buyer beware. So let's wrap it up. If you're buying a home anywhere along the Grand Strand, you want to make flood mitigation an important part of your due diligence. Your lender, your insurance agent, and your realtor will be invaluable resources in helping you determine the flood risk and the additional costs you might incur. These are the important points to keep in mind. Number 1, know your zone. Number 2, know whether or not the home you are looking at or the neighborhood that is in has ever been flooded previously. Number 3, know whether or not flood insurance will be required and what it will cost. Number 4, know the elevation requirements and whether or not you're going to need an elevation certificate. And number 5, you may want to steer clear of homes that are in high-risk flood zones that have enclosed lower sections. Okay, thank you for watching. I hope you found this information useful. Again, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please like this video. Use the comment section below for questions or comments. We'd love to hear from you. And I hope to see you guys on the beach one day soon.